All right, good morning, everybody. I'm Chris Stecker. I'm the Horticulture Technician, Master Gardener Program Coordinator for Alamance County Extension. And we're going to talk a little bit today about cloning of plants. So you love a plant, you can make more. Now, seed propagation, as you probably know, when you propagate from seeds, chances are you may not get the exact same plant as you started with because of the, birds bees thing. The birds bees thing doesn't really play a part in propagation by cloning. So we're going to talk about ground layering, air layering, and cuttings, which is the most popular way of propagation. Oh, okay. Have a seat. There's still some pots for you. Anyway, ground layering, sometimes it can happen on its own. And as a matter of fact, I was going to bring in one now, but I've got 3 azaleas that ground layered themselves while I was trying to cut back while I was pruning. I discovered that they had actually ground layered by themselves and had rooted, and I cut them off and put them in pots, and they're doing just fine. When the ground is moist, did we have a moist spring? Did the faucet get shut off? Yes. Okay. Except last night we had a little bit of rain. It's an easy way to propagate azaleas, rhododendrons, and hydrangeas. Okay, so here's the parent plant of a hydrangea. Kind of sprawly, as you can see. Has some low-hanging branches. That's definitely a good way to go. So I'm going to clear the mulch out of the way. I'm going to break up the soil a little. And then I'm going to slightly wound, and that's where I did it, slightly wound the branch so where it contacts the ground so it's stimulated to put out roots. And then I'm going to pin it to the ground. I used a pin for this, but you can also just put a brick on it or something to keep it in contact with the soil. That's the important thing. And then you wait 6 months to a year. And look, you got roots. These roots. So you're going to cut the tie to the mother plant, which is that it should still be able to work on its own. And there you go. There's your new plant. It's still pinned to the ground with roots. You're going to dig it. It was really wet that day. And this is that clone 2 years later in the garden. I just took that picture this weekend. So, air layering is another way of encouraging a plant to make roots while you're not tending to it. A part of a woody plant is induced to develop roots by wounding the stem and enclosing it in moist moss. Some candidates include rhododendron, camellia, azalea, holly, magnolia, fruit trees, apple, pear, and pecan, grapevines, and roses. Bonsai specimens are often started by air layering in an interesting branch from an old plant. And I've actually seen a video of this being done on really big branches. So this is a really cool technique, and we tried it out last year on a camellia. So you want to select a stem about the size of a pencil or a little larger. You wound the stem, and this is a kind of a specific way to do it. So with a sharp knife, you make 2 parallel cuts about 2 times the diameter of the branch apart around the stem and through the bark and cambium layer. You connect the 2 parallel cuts with 1 long cut. Don't worry, there's pictures. Don't get too confused. I was going to reorganize this, but I thought, now I'll just go with this. Okay, remove the ring of bark, leaving the inner woody tissue exposed. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to make a cut here and a cut here, just through the bark, and then slice down and then peel off the bark. It comes off very easily. So here I'm making the 2 cuts about twice the diameter of, this is about the diameter, and so this is about twice the diameter. And then I'm going to connect the 2 cuts around there with a slice down the middle. And then I'm going to peel off the bark. Very easy. And then, and we scrape all this greenish part is the cambium layer, which actually is carrying the nutrition to the plant, and it could actually form a scar and just heal over rather than making roots. So you want to take that off. Basically cutting the top part of the plant from the bottom part of the plant off. Not completely though, because there's still water getting back and forth, which is why you don't take it off right away. Okay, so this is all ready to go. Now you can apply a rooting hormone. I did not on this project and it worked just fine. So we're going to use a rooting hormone today with the cuttings, but you don't need to do that. And then you take a handful of damp sphagnum moss. This is not peat moss, this is sphagnum peat, which is very, I should have brought some out here to show you. It's very, you'll see it in the picture. It's the kind of stuff they usually put on top of a pot to be decorative. And then you tie it in place, wrap clear plastic around it several times. Use clear plastic so when it starts to form roots, you can actually see them. And then you can fasten it with electrician's tape at the top and bottom. And you want to seal it so that excess water can escape, but moisture will be retained. Wrap the package with a sheet of aluminum foil, dull side out, and that's basically to discourage curious squirrels from getting into your packet of sphagnum moss, water, and roots. Okay, so here's me packing the sphagnum moss around there, covering it with plastic. This requires a lot of 3 hands would be real great in this situation. So I'm going to show you another technique that 2 hands are more useful for. Between this shot and this shot, there may have been some difficulties. But here we go. We got it done. Got the electrician's tape on there. And then we wrapped it in foil. Okay? All right, now here's another method. This method's just a little bit easier. So I'm going to take a quart-sized plastic storage bag, and open it up by cutting down one side and across the bottom. Ziploc bag you probably don't want to use because it's got too much, so you can buy an old-fashioned quart-sized plastic storage bag. Gather the bottom and fasten it to the stem by tying with a rubber band that's been cut. That makes a great tie. Pack the pocket with damp sphagnum moss. Tie off the top with a second rubber band, making sure the package is tight, and wrap with aluminum foil again, dull side out. So here's how that works. So here's the stem that's been wounded and ready to go, and this is the opened up plastic bag. And you tie it off with a rubber band on one end. Stuff in the sphagnum moss, which this holds it a lot better than the other method. And then you tie it off on the other end with another rubber band and wrap it in foil again. So you're going to check this package periodically to determine that the moss is still moist. And after about 8 to 12 weeks, peel back the foil to look for white roots visible through the plastic wrap. When it's rooted, cut the newly rooted plant from the parent plant. Carefully remove the plastic without disturbing the roots or removing the ball of moss. Now what I did after that, because it looked like it had dried out a little bit, I put it in to soak in a bucket of water for a little while before I planted it. Plant in a container filled with moist potting mix or plant in a well-prepared soil bed. And that's what the roots look like inside the package. So it made a lot of roots. And I actually took the cuttings in June, and I don't think I undid it until October. Sort of forgot about it, to tell you the truth, and it was fine. So you don't have to pay any attention to it. So there you go. That's what the roots look like after I took the plastic off. So there were lots and lots of roots. And the nice thing about it is, this is the plant, had flower buds on it, the leaves look great. So this plant, which was basically not connected to this other plant for months, basically disconnected except for a water source, looks great. So that's a real head start. Okay, so now we're going to talk about cuttings, and that's what we're going to do today. This is actually the most popular way to propagate woody plants, actually to propagate lots of plants. I know many of you have probably rooted your basil or coleus in a glass of water. It makes roots. Doesn't always work for the woody plants to just put them in water, so we're going to talk about how to do it in soil. If you want to know, this book, I mentioned this before to a smaller group, this book will tell you how to propagate whatever woody plants you're trying to propagate. This is the Michael Durr's Manual of Woody Landscape Plants. This is not the most recent edition, but it still works. It has all good information in it. And so under each plant that you're looking for, it will have propagation notes. It will tell you about rooting hormone, whether it propagates best from cuttings, best from seed, and so forth. So if you really want to do a lot of propagation, or if you only want to propagate one plant, call me. I'll look it up and I'll tell you. So, okay. So there's 3 different kinds of cuttings. There's softwood cuttings, which are soft, succulent, new growth of woody plants just as it begins to harden. So softwood cuttings would be your coleus, for example. Shoots will snap easily when bent. Youngest leaves have not reached mature size. Semi-hardwood this is what we're going to be doing today. Current season's growth after the wood has matured. Wood is firm and all the leaves are full size. Hardwood, shoots that grew last summer, and you're going to cut these in the winter or early spring while the plant is still dormant. So this is what we're going to do today, current season's growth. Okay, basics. You want to minimize water loss, prevent disease, encourage root formation. Okay, minimize water loss. You want to start with well-hydrated cuttings. This wasn't so easy this week because it's been hot and dry, so I watered. I watered this week, and then we had a little bit of rain last night, so our target plants should be in good shape for taking cuttings. Water the plant well the day before, done. Take the cutting in the morning. Well, it'll still be morning when we go outside. Process cuttings immediately or stand the cut in water, and I'm going to give you a cup of water as you go out to take your cuttings. You want to decrease leaf surface by removing most of the leaves, and this is the hard part. You've got this beautiful cutting, it's got all these lush leaves on it, and you're going to take them all off except one. And even that one, if it's a big one like on hydrangea, you're going to cut it in half. So, because those leaves transpire water into the air, and you want the water to stay in the plant. Use pre-moistened medium and water well after sticking the cuttings. You will not need to water the medium, pre-moisten the medium for you. And I put also in the bottom of the pot, I put a piece of screening, which will help keep the soil inside the pot, and also keep critters from crawling in. But the way it's bagged, you've got the bag underneath the pot, so you shouldn't have a lot of moisture loss. If there's a lot of water in there, you might want to poke a hole in it to promote drainage. Enclose the pot and cuttings in a plastic bag. Keep out of direct sunlight. You can keep them outside, but I would put them behind your shrubs or in deep shade. Don't let the sun on them because this, sorry, didn't mean to do that. The plastic bag will actually act like a terrarium, and you can actually steam your cuttings if it's in the sun. So you don't want to do that. Okay, prevent disease. Take cuttings only from healthy plants. So if your plant is on its way out and you want to save it, you can try it, but if it's got rose rosette, that would not be a great choice for taking a cutting. Clean tools and pots. I've got some wipes here to wipe off your tools. You just want to make sure that you're not going to transmit like rosette to another plant or whatever disease it is. You can clean it with a 10% bleach solution, rinse and let dry, or I've got these Clorox wipes here, which they do a pretty good job too. Fresh soilless potting mix. Don't use garden soil. There's too many things going on in garden soil. So today's mix is a soilless potting mix, which I also added some perlite to. Don't use a potting soil that has fertilizer in it or other amendments. So you just want to use these soilless potting mixes are made from what they call forest products, which is pine bark fines and other forest products. So you want to use that, and a little perlite, sand, anything you can, and really anything that doesn't have soil in it, local soil, anything that has good drainage but also will hold some moisture. Keep moist but not waterlogged. Encourage root formation. Select robust shoots. Leave enough leaves for photosynthesis, but that's not very many necessary. Stimulate root formation by applying a synthetic form of auxin, a naturally occurring plant hormone. So I've got little cups of Dip and Grow pre-mixed, and it will hold for 10 hours. I just mixed it at about an hour ago, so it should be still good for today. And what we're going to do is we're going to dip the cuttings. Keep the cuttings warm, but avoid excessive heat. If it's 95 degrees, you might want to put it in your garage or somewhere rather than in the 95 degrees. But really, back like against your foundation, behind your foundation plantings is probably fine. Okay, there's our old school Mark, taking a crepe myrtle cutting, and look what he's doing. He's cutting off that beautiful flower, and that's all that's left. But there's more. This is the cutting that's going to be stuck. It's perfect. It has one little leaf on it, and we're going to dip this part into the Dip and Grow, and then stick it in the soil. Okay, here's the PG hydrangea, also out there. Take off all these leaves. Oh, well, there's more to take off. So this is here's your PG hydrangea cutting. It's got enough leaves to photosynthesize, but not too much for the amount, because there's no roots. So there's nothing to support this leaf growth, but you need a little bit. You look skeptical. Okay, this is we used a powder rooting hormone for this one. Here's all the cuttings. They don't look like much. Okay, what you're going to do, you've got a pencil. Everybody has a pencil. And you're going to use your pencil to poke holes in your medium. Now, I wouldn't do more than 3 cuttings in those pots, maybe 4, depending on what's on them, because you don't want the leaves to touch each other. And you definitely don't want the leaves to touch the plastic bag, which is going to go over the floor. By the way, be careful with the hangers. I think we've got them fixed now, but they were springing out of the pots earlier, so just be careful. We don't want them springing out of the pots. Anyway, so poke some holes to put your cutting. This helps prevent the rooting hormone from being wiped off as you're sticking it in. Okay, so this is the powder, but this is about all you need to put on there. You're going to dip it in. You could actually go a little bit above the node there, but don't. And you want to put it in the liquid for 3 to 5 seconds. Don't leave it in a long time, because it can actually burn. Yes?
Chris, do you need to clean off the bark before you dip it?
Nope. Just take the cutting the way it is, dip it in the rooting hormone, and stick it in the hole you made. So there's 5 cuttings in that one, but they're little. So then you bag it, and again, you don't want anything to touch the plastic, and you don't want them to touch each other. So they got to have. It has to be humid, but they want humid air circulating around them. So that's it. Okay, any questions before we go outside? On the back of your form is a list of the plants. I should have told you before so you could be looking. On the very back page is a list of the plants that are available in Arbor Gate. I've flagged them with flagging. There's orange, and if they have an orange or a red flag, that's one of the plants that's on the list. If you have any specific plants that you're looking for, let me know. I'll guide you to them. And we're going to go, you're going to take a cup of water as you go out. Any cuttings you take, just put them in that cup of water. You can do the rest of your pruning and cutting when you come back in to take the leaves off and so forth. And when you come back in, I'll give you a little cup of the rooting hormone. Okay? You're going to take a cutting with about 6 inches, no more than that. And because you're going to cut the top off, and you want the part that you're going to stick, you want it to be a little more woody. So if it has a lot of greenery or a lot of really soft stuff on top, you probably want to cut that off. So you really only need to stick a cutting about 4 inches. Yeah? How am I doing? Okay? Any more questions? I'm going to go out with you and I'll help you. Don't worry. Does everybody have something to cut with? How many people do not have something to cut with?
We'll share.
Okay, there's a few tools up there.